This podcast is protected under the laws of the United States and other countries. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or exhibition may result in civil liability, criminal prosecution, and the wrath of the tall man.
Boy!
Thanks for coming back to 90 for Chill, the podcast. This is your host, Cool Movies Darth, Russ Stevens, if you're using your smart home devices to find this podcast. Not much I really want to talk about because this is going to be a long episode. I have my guests, Sportz Ballz, and an Idiot Says What participant, one Timothy Loss, who's coming on to talk about a movie that meant a lot to him back when he was just discovering indie cinema. One where we find a lot of stuff to discover in, and that is Roadside Prophets, starring John Doe, the driving force of the punk band X, and Adam Horovitch, better known as DJ Adrock of the Beastie Boys. This is going to be the 90s attempt at Easy Rider, and we're going to speak fondly of it. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. I really need to wrap this up otherwise, because, as I say, it's going to be a long episode, nearly 2 hours after this intro, and, of course, a trailer for the movie. Tradition. So not much to report in my life. There is a bit of tragedy, though. One of my good friends, one of my few friends outside of work in Champaign-Urbana, Brandy Stoneham, recently lost one of her cats. He was just shy of 12 years old. Wouldn't you know it, quite the trooper. Didn't make a fuss about anything, and I got the vibe that he was quite the protector. So thanks for everything you did for us, little Avery, and here's to the Rainbow Bridge. Of course, let's just get through all the formalities. If you want to be on the podcast, send an email to rusthebus07@gmail.com. That's RUSSTHEBUS07@gmail.com. Just offer me a movie, a theme, an actor, a director. Just keep the content to movies under 100 minutes. If you want to do the work and see if those credits shouldn't really count, go right ahead. A lot of options when you do that. Otherwise, rate and subscribe on your favorite podcast apps. And if you want to talk trash about the podcast, please do that at CatBusRuss on Twitter. That's at CatBusRuss. So I don't think I really need to say much more, and let's get into the show.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Somewhere between Barstow and Reno.
El Dorado.
Why do you want to go there anyway?
Because of this.
You selling drugs?
It's ashes. Met this guy. Joe Mosley.
Dave Coleman.
And he had the coolest ride. He just died.
On the bike?
No, playing some video game.
Wow, which one?
Sam and Joe are going to hit reality head on.
What do you guys do?
You ride.
Outlaws, huh? I know how it is. Start out, you roll through a few stop signs. Remember Billy Idol?
What you want to be on the lookout for is transcendent reality. Seeing in, seeing out.
I want you to look around. Just look around. Tell me what you see. A whole society that's obsessed with feeling good and happy. Come on.
Why do you like sex?
I don't know. Because it feels good.
Free food for the poor!
Together, they'll discover that Motel 9 is a state of mind.
Man, there was no wrapping on one of my drinking glasses. There was no bath soap in my room.
But I...
And El Dorado ain't no Cadillac.
They got these fish up here called queewees or something. When they get old, they get big. When they get big, they get beat.
John Doe, Adam Horovitz, David Carradine, Timothy Leary, Arlo Guthrie, and John Cusack. If you're going to think, don't drive.
I guess if you want to die in the vine with the Empire in decline, it's up to you.
Roadside Prophets, a film by Sid and Nancy's Abby Wool.
All right. Well, Thanks again for tuning in the 90 for Chill, the podcast. This week, I've got a first-time guest and a first-time conversation. The world of Facebook makes everybody think they're a lot closer than they are. So
ain't that the truth?
Yeah. So I have Tim Loss on the line, and I do believe you have a podcast of your own, if I was researching you well enough.
Yeah, I have a podcast. It's pretty much, you can find it everywhere, YouTube, Twitch, pretty much your normal podcast stations and also your lives. It's called Sportz Ballz. It's live every Sunday, 8 Central. And what we do is talk about sports that don't get a lot of coverage. Like last week we did extreme sitting, which is a German sport where they have a special stool and they do extreme tricks while sitting. And we try to make funny jokes about that and cover sports news. And on Tuesdays, you can see me doing Idiot Says What. Season 2 is in current revamp. We're pre-recording. It should be out by March.
Very cool. I think, I don't know, might not be right on this, but I've had a frequent guest of Gregory Carl here on the podcast. Has he ever shown up on that, or did I?
Yeah, he's actually he's our esports correspondent.
Oh, he said
Sportz Ballz.
Weird.
We have a rotating cast. We try to make it like a very how can I put it, low rent, funny ESPN show, like Sports Center from way back in the day. And we all have our designated, like I'm the leader of Redneck Sports. So,
okay.
You know.
So
but yeah, Gregory's been on there for the last 2 or 3 months, and it's been very funny, and it's awesome to have him. It's kind of actually how I met you on Facebook. Like I just assumed, oh, you know Gregory, so we're friends now. So that's just how that works. Welcome to Facebook.
Yep. I'm more of a Twitter fan myself, but that's just more or less because I think everybody gets way too comfortable on Facebook. Like,
yeah,
little professionalism. I'll take my at most 140 followers over my like I usually go on a birthday Facebook boycott just because I don't really know sincere or routine wishes of wellness, I guess.
Yeah, see, that's I guess we're both right on that. I always hated my birthday on Facebook. I've actually said it where they can't say happy birthday. You always get those people you've never met, and they want to act like you're, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it set up, which causes a different dilemma because now they private message me, which is a whole different can of worms.
Right. So, I'm probably right for my.
Oh yeah, you
draw.
are. Yeah, 100%.
So. Yeah, so that's I guess that's a good way to get to know each other, and it's kind of fitting that there's a degree of awkwardness judging that the movie I put out there was Roadside Prophets, starring John Doe from the it's really more of just difficult to say the band name because it's like everybody knows Smashing Pumpkins, but of course, I think the official title is The Smashing Pumpkins. And John Doe was the primary driving force behind X, not the X.
No way.
X. Yeah, that's.
I'm sorry, big Guitar Hero fan. They did Rock in the 80s, Los Angeles.
Yep, based out of LA.
So wow, all right, I didn't know that. Well, that's really cool. I thought he looked familiar, and I thought it was because John Doe was more growing up. He was in another movie called Pure Country.
You see,
George Strait's movie, and my mom loved it, so I watched it a lot.
Well, you see, my first exposure to John Doe, which as a guy with a Bikini Kill tattoo on him, which means I've got a love for punk, but my first exposure to John Doe was Roadhouse.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm just on Pandora, 8 years ago, and just punching in punk bands and whatever music comes along, and X, that's cool. John Doe, the guy from the nephew of the antagonist from Roadhouse, the bartender who was skimming.
Yeah, no, that's another. He has that. Like once you see him in the movie, I think it's really what helps the movie along too, because he has that familiar face.
Yeah,
because he's been in some definitely some movies. I'm not going to say like Avatar hits, but definitely classics that have spanned a few, if not 5 or 6 years, maybe a decade or two.
Right.
So it kind of works out for him.
Right. So I'd say about let's just say 87 to 90. This movie came out in 92, so maybe a little further. I didn't do too much wiki work on his filmography, but
I wish I did more. I got so caught up on his name because I thought that's got to be worst stage name ever for an actor, John Doe.
Right, but
but for a punk name, it's kind of rad. I mean, that kind of goes into it a little bit.
Yep. So, I mean, which again kind of plays into everything going around this movie. It was written by, I believe it's Abby Wool and directed by Abby Wool. The movie we're talking about, if I haven't mentioned the title, is Roadside Prophets. And he's probably best known for writing Sid and Nancy. So.
Oh dang! All right,
yeah, right. So it's kind of, so this is kind of like showing my weaknesses and that never had my finger on the pulse, I guess, because I haven't seen Sid and Nancy, and essentially this would be generation. I don't want to say X. Well, I guess it all depends on who you are. I mean, as they address it in this movie. John Doe would have been old enough to be drafted. I think he was born in 58, and I think he did shoot this movie when he was 32 when I did the math. So it works out, but then you have Adam Horvish, Ad-Rock, DJ Ad-Rock from the Beastie Boys, who I obviously knew, but again, I didn't really know him until I'm finding all these codes for NBA Jam Tournament Edition and the special celebrity stuff. So you got Bill Clinton, you got Hillary Clinton, you got George Clinton, but then you had
might be one of those movies where I'll be honest with you, I rewatched it today to get prepped in here, and it might be one of those movies where the back lore might be better than the movie itself, because the layers itself, like we're talking about John Doe a lot, but Sam even went to write on for Amy Schumer and did a lot of comedy.
Well, he's a member. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, he's a founding member of the Beastie Boys. I mean,
right. Well, I didn't even think, like, that's insane that he played this and then did all that. Like, that's what blew my mind even more, is that he has tons of writing credits out of the wazoo, which I just, maybe I didn't look into it enough, but it was impressive on just first glance. Like,
well, I'm a big Riot Girl fan. I mean, I've seen all three. Well, I guess all three of the major Kathleen Hanna bands, Bikini Kill, Julie Ruin, and La Tigra. And no, as I say, I didn't see any of her DC bands that were pre Bikini Kill, and like, it's funny when I finally got to see Bikini Kill at Riot Fest 2019. She was telling, or no, I think it may have been when I saw Julie Ruin in 2017. She's just talking about stuff and how, like, everybody was praising Ad-Rock, the Beastie Boys and stuff, and then she gets criticisms like, "You're a woman over 30. Why do you? What are you doing in music?" So it's actually kind of fun and fitting that most, I don't know, the thing that really makes me care about punk music, and I didn't really like, I don't know, growing up in Peoria on the wrestling scene, that's my background. So my 20s was pro wrestling, 30s was hospitality and trying to get my screenplay Main Event of the Dead sold, and my 40s is now podcasting. So I mean, I knew like the Super Suckers were big in the wrestling scene, at least fandom wise. Knew all the guys from I'm No Angel and Peoria. I don't know where you're based out of.
Southern Illinois.
Okay.
The thing is with us around here, I'd say with our area, new metal hit really hard, but we liked more Metallica and metal, and not so much on the punk end. I don't know why as much. It just, I think that's what a lot of the garage bands around here were doing.
No, I don't.
So that's
I don't
what
think
kind of the local.
Yeah,
this
I don't think
movie is punk rock. I
Oh
thought
yeah.
a lot.
Oh well,
Like
as I
this
say,
is so in so many ways, like just on the structure of just normal movies. This is not one of those.
No. It's really a throwback, and it's an interesting time because I would go back and say that we had I can't recall a lot of attempts to recapture Easy Rider, and I'll be upfront, I have not watched Easy Rider. But
it's one of those movies though at this point that's been reviewed so much. I haven't either, but I feel like I have.
Right, exactly. So with Easy, so this is another movie. This is a movie. I can't really recall anything in the 80s definitely trying to recapture Easy Rider. I mean, you had your road trip movies. I mean, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I guess you'd say Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which I've never seen. I did see a group called Scripts Gone Wild. Not Scripts Gone Wild. Is it? I can't remember. It was at C2E2 a couple months ago. Something with tunes, because it was all voice actors, like the guy who Jim Cummins, the guy best known for Winnie the Pooh. So a bunch of voice actors basically doing a script reading of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but changing the voices every scene. So you got Winnie the Pooh stealing the cab from shoot.
Oh, I could think of all that. Yeah, like the cab sequence with especially with the high pitched voice.
Right. So the lawyer who steals the cab from Steve Martin is done as Winnie the Pooh, and Steve Martin's actually done is the voice actors doing John C. Reilly. So
okay, nice.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Well, that's
so
creative.
But I'm just saying, like that. That was another 80s road trip movie. I can't really say anybody's gone for. There was another one that I would think would fit more. I think it's called Panorama, but it was a surreal one where an orphan kid was going around the desert collecting cards from gas stations. Oh, well,
it's really hard to find, and it's surrealistic, kind of like because when I was looking up Roadside Prophets, the movie we were watching, my wife asked me, what genre is it? And I was like, well, it is kind of like a road trip, but like broader terms, I was like, maybe comedy. It's its own thing, And we looked it up, and it says comedy, but this is kind of what I surreal, almost a surreal, out of world experience in a road trip in some aspects of this. Because I know we'll get into it, but David Carradine's cameo in this was that scene. I was like, what? And then I did some research, and apparently he walked off the set. It was supposed to have a whole different ending with him involved, and I was trying to think, how would that work? Because their ending that they do have seems fitting.
Yes.
maybe a little forced, but definitely fitting to everything there. And that was probably one of the perks that I had was the ending. How do you? I'm sorry. Do you do it structurally, like from beginning to end, or is it just like a full riff?
No. We just I got a bunch of notes I took from the movie, which is
same,
and just go from there. I guess we could just go over though a plot synopsis for the sake of our audience. So let me get back to that one. I've kind of been doing a new dual screen thing. Kind of got used to that at my bullshit job at Marine Bank. Having a Surface tablet as I'm blogging, and then like, oh yeah, no, the sheer fact that you're blogging is the reason we fired you.
Well, see, on this, I started this movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to be really take notes, try to think, what does this mean about this? And I got halfway through and I realized I don't think it's meant to be like
no
at all. So that I gave that up because I was trying to think of this and that. I'm like, nah, this is definitely just a come along for the ride type movie.
Yes, it is. And when I was saying that the 80s didn't really have those road trip movies where it's about got some, feels like something deeper, and I'm trying to get this. Come on.
Yeah.
It's like
I'll throw my what's amazing this John Doe, his name's Joe Mosley. He meets up with a buddy. I forget even the buddy's name.
Well,
but,
he meets up with
just
Sam.
a guy off work. Like he's just sitting there
Dave.
on bikes.
Dave.
Yeah, Dave. Yeah. We'll talk the synopsis, but me forgetting Dave's name's not really a big deal. He's more of a prop in most of the movies.
Oh yeah, no, I got my things about him. I was just trying to search for Panorama, and it's kind of a tough IMDb on that one. But the movie starts with your typical guys leaving their bullshit job in a factory. I guess this is probably California oil scene. I mean, you always see those drills, but you never really think oil in California. But watch enough trauma movies looking for cheap backdrops. So it's Joe Mosley is the protagonist. And he's just getting on his classic 57 Harley, and somebody who just got hired goes onto his bike and is just bitching about everything. Like the coffee, they dock me for being 20 minutes late, and the coffee sucks. And Joe, a character out of it's very hard not to relate to Joe because and it even goes further. But no, you got to bring your own coffee, which is what I do whenever I go to work for the most part. And
I related with them so much. Maybe you do too, because we're both in Illinois. When they said, like, what is there to do for fun? And then they had a montage of just cruising around the town, the industrial area. Like for the longest time, like what they had to do, there isn't really much, even though they're in California or close to LA. What they like doing is just hanging out, driving, and maybe going to a bar.
Right.
So I felt fitting to that because I was like, that's that's here, man.
Oh no, I mean, no, I'm from Peoria. At one point, we had 5 titty bars.
We had 2 titty barns. It's almost like bars, but they couldn't serve alcohol. You had to bring your own. But it was a barn in the middle of a field. Shout out to Dix, Illinois.
I know a few in Iowa from my time on the pro wrestling scene. Which is the same thing. Like, it's a big ass warehouse, but we're dragging our coolers in. Like,
it's a big. I just said this to my podcast. Illinois was just like, oh, we can't smoke in a bar. Well, we'll build a garage next to it that we can do everything in. It's just like all the bars now are small and next to huge, giant outdoor garage coliseums now.
Well, I'd say more. around I-74. We got decent beer gardens, but
oh, there you go.
I mean,
Nice.
it's not like I can't tell you where you can drink and smoke in Peoria. And I think those are places more or less the cops don't want to actually deal with.
Which was I love the cop character in this.
Yes. Yeah.
As we're doing our beginning sequence, I knew immediately the soundtrack was going to be just for the times, and out of all road trip movies, I think this has probably got the best soundtrack to fit.
Right.
It was immediately kicks in, and it just has that feeling the whole time, where it's almost a nihilistic journey of purpose.
Yes. No, that's a brilliant description. I mean, I get to more of that in my notes at the end, but the soundtracks by Pray for Rain, who were a post-punk band up until I think Sid and Nancy, and then they just did movies. So as I say, Sid and Nancy, obviously, and great versatility in that. I mean, the soundtrack is awesome. You got the Pogues, you do have John Doe, a lot of other stuff, which is really strong.
It's one of those soundtracks, after you get done, you're gonna want to look it up.
Yes, exactly.
Like you may enjoy all the music, but there's going to be one track that's your favorite, and you're going to probably seek that one out and maybe find a new band you have. Like, that's what I remember. It's like when I first watched this movie, it was a perfect time in my life because I was going through, I think, feeling what the character felt a lot at the time. Whereas maybe I don't have. He understands, in my eyes, Joe, especially at this point, understands, hey, it's a job, it's life.
Yeah.
And he's there because of his circumstance.
Right. He's got
and he wants to do more, but he's kind of in this,
Yeah.
And that's how I felt when I first watched it, too. Like, taking the next step if I wanted to do my dreams or stay in the same rut that I'm kind of been in. It's comfortable. It'll pay the bills, as he said when he met Dave. It pays the bills.
Yeah. You got the ex-wife who's getting $600 a month alimony, and I know that really isn't much alimony now, inflation and all that bollocks, but $600 is, that's what I'm paying for my cheap apartment.
Well, people remember gas was under $1, then $600. He's not getting a lot of money home. Like, that's
right.
She had a good lawyer, and he did not.
Yes.
That was a subtext.
Right. So
I thought maybe this was an attempt on counterculture, because when they go to the bar, Dave is playing video games, and this is where actually meets his untimely.
Yes, he gets electrocuted playing Dig Dug. I think it looked like Dig Dug.
It did look. That's what I had in my notes too. A Dig Dug like knockoff is what I said, and I thought maybe they were trying on that, because it's weird during the movie once he starts his journey, and maybe it's just characters, but it's odd PSAs. They just kind of slip in, and I didn't. That's why I thought maybe the movie was going for something more, but I think that was its parody, maybe like its comedy moments, kind of poking fun at this. And
I don't know. Oh, well, I don't know if I would say parody. I mean, I think it's more of just actually just laying it out right in front of you, the ridiculousness of it. Parody typically just rolls the punches, like Naked Gun just going with parody. It doesn't 100% agree. It doesn't, the actors just keep doing what they're supposed to be doing, regardless of the fact, like, oh, there's that tall guy who you never see the head of. Like, so that's, but what I would say is, like, and again, it gets back to what I really kind of took from it as, the 90s was a good time for cinema. And I don't know, I think we got just fed up with the blockbuster stuff. And if you look at the returns in the late 80s up until Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Batman, movies weren't doing that well. And of course, they're
Right.
throwing a hell of a lot of money into these movies. And so it's kind of like, okay, this doesn't work. And I think in the early 90s, like you got one major blockbuster a year. I'd say 88's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. 89 is Batman. 90 is Home Alone. 91 was actually kind of weak. But that's
they were desperate. The way it just in my head, it makes sense because, as you were saying, they had a big boom. It was like I'd say 80, was it like 85, 87? You had some of the premier movie theater movies come out where it was just blockbuster after blockbuster, kind of how it seems now. Like, what is that? The Raiders of the Lost Ark, Lethal Weapon time? You had late 80s,
right? So late 81 was Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you still had.
Well, geez, I'm way off. You got me good on this.
89 was Last Crusade. So I would say,
okay, cool. That's what I was kind of thinking.
Okay, so I would say in the 80s you had 80 you had Empire Strikes Back, 81 Raiders, 82 was E.T., biggest movie of all time up until Titanic, 83 Jedi, 84 you had Temple of Doom, which obviously made a lot of bank, 85 86 great movies, but I can't say you had that major blockbuster. In 84 also, I say Temple of Doom. Ghostbusters, the big one out of that one, actually.
I forgot what year it is, but I cited my information from the opening of UHF, Weird Al's movie.
Yes,
it opened up right in the middle of just awesome stuff. Where it's a good movie, but it just got overshadowed.
Right, and I think even Nickelodeon's whatever hip show they had at the time, Weird Al was a guest, and like he did a Magic 8-Ball, and like, will UHF be a hit? Yes, bigger than Batman. Like, so he already knew it was going to take VHS to get him over. Never done a UHF podcast, which I've tried to like say, hey, look, we could do UHF, we could do Walk Hard, a Spinal Tap, a lot of music stuff.
Lord. I don't want to get too far off, but I do believe Walk Hard is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life.
It's really
it dissects not only just those the movie biography movies, but also its source material. So
and it's funny, like Walk Hard, like it's one of those weird ones. Again, Adam McKay produced, obviously produced. So of course you have Anchorman, and then you have the the unofficial sequel, Good Afternoon, Ron Burgundy or something. Which is all the cut stuff.
The newest Anchorman too. I bought the special. It has a second bonus movie as well.
Oh, I didn't know they did
much improv. Yeah, each Anchorman has a separate movie entirely that goes with them that was left on the cutting room floor that they re-edited, used out.
Yep. So Walk Hard qualifies for 90 for Chill the podcast if it's a theatrical cut. When I rented it from Blockbuster, obviously I got the unrated, and that's a good extra 30 minutes on top of everything. And like,
which I hate to say it, I do recommend. If you that one does have some of the extending of jokes, sometimes a little too far, but it does sometimes round out jokes. So everything. We all know, I'm pointing at my nose, the one time the scene goes a little too far. We all know that, but maybe that's the point. It burns in your head. But
I think it's still. I mean, I appreciate the like. If you got gold, and that's just the problem. That's really the problem with 90 for Chill. 90 minutes is like the ideal runtime. I think that's the entire point of the podcast. I make an exception for like sequels. Like, okay, no, universe is established. Now you got to build upon it. So you're just throwing shit at the wall. I don't care how much shit you throw at the wall, but
this is what threw me for Roadside Prophets. That's what kind of threw me for the loop. That's why I kind of keep going back to surrealistic, is because genuinely the main characters are likable, relatable.
Yep.
You root for them, but everyone they meet on this trip
is insane, as Sam would say,
cranked up to 11 to the point where it's remarkable. Like Dave passes away, so Joe, being the nice guy, they were talking, and Dave the whole time was talking about this place in Nevada called Jackpot,
El Dorado,
where he's Jackpot and all this, and so he passes away. So Joe just decides, I'm going to spend my money, my non-existent sick days, to fill out this guy's dream. He goes to the guy's family too, and I think that's the biggest.
That's the thing that kicks it all off, is like Joe goes to, so he meets Dave. They go to a titty bar. Dave electrocutes himself on a video game, which honestly, I don't think that's too bad a way to go. Dying in a titty bar and playing a video game. Yeah, I couldn't ask for more. So this goes to, so Angie, I guess, is a character you never see. She's only on the phone. She's in personnel, and she's got a thing for our character Joe. And so basically she's offering, like, she's trying to woo Joe basically by giving him a bunch of breaks, like, oh, I can go and make everything seem like Joe died on premises, so that'll make up for the money you spent on a stranger's funeral, because Dave and Joe may have only known each other 3 hours, because they meet after work. And
it was shorter than a Rocky montage.
Oh,
this is how long these guys, like, it was an intro, and they were at the titty bar, and Dave died with a smile on his face. He didn't get the extra life on Dig Dug.
Right. And no Scott Pilgrim bullshit here. Love Scott Pilgrim. I mean,
love it.
Yes, but basically
he's not getting an extra life of confidence and the sort of achievement in this one to come back. Now Dave's gone, and he ends up in basically his gas can.
Yes, of his motorcycle. So Angie wants to get with Joe. We never see Angie. I don't even think she's got a picture on IMDb. So she basically says, well, why are you paying for all this when he has a family? Which is a great actual setup for a character, when he says, oh, I don't have any family. They all died in a car accident. That's why I ride a bike. So, all right. So Joe's going to try passing on at least the funeral expenses, or at least just, the ashes that he's taken out of the urn and poured into the gas tank of Dave's motorcycle.
Which I have to talk about, because in my notes, he's doing it because it comes in like an urn that looks like a trophy. Dave's in that. He's transporting it to the gas tank of Dave's old bike, and he's doing it the most haphazard way of it. He didn't even make a paper funnel or nothing. Dave is literally all over this guy's. It's on the bottom of his feet, and I know the montage, like, he sweeps it up, but I was like, dang, Joe, like, you're not, like, you didn't even try on this one.
Well, he tried the newspaper funnel. I mean, yeah, I would have gone to a gas station and got the bullshit oil ones they used to give you.
But then again, I don't have Angie hitting on me on the phone while I'm trying to save my job, while I'm pouring this guy I don't know in a gas tank. So I don't know his problems. I'm probably did better than expected.
Right. So he takes the ashes to Dave's family, and the maid is just going to throw them out. So he goes, grabs the ashes, and he's going to get to El Dorado to, throw to lay the ashes out, say at the 2 Jacks, the 3 Queens, or the 4 Kings, whatever the casino was.
Right.
And it's El Dorado, Nevada. And I guess this is where it really gets weird, because then you have the character of Sam, played by Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys, which you meet.
I'll be honest with you, until you said Beastie Boys, I'm a big Beast. I didn't even notice him. I know facial, and that's what I'm going to say. I praise his experience, because he plays this character, which I'm going to say is a character 100%, almost an enigma of charisma.
Yes.
To a new level, to where I didn't see him as anything other than literally Sam, the character who's portraying.
No, if I didn't go into it knowing that, I get this DVD from Netflix. I'm grandfathered in, so I'm still paying only $4.99 for 2 movies a month. Of course, taking the time to watch 2 movies a month when you got all this streaming bollocks is a challenge. That's why I threw this out there. Am I watching this one? I mean, I'm watching it this week. I'm going to try to actually get the most out of my Netflix DVDs.
Gotcha.
Okay, no, cool, very cool. But I'm looking at this and it's like, how am I just going to blow this off? John Doe and DJ Ad Rock. Nope. I'm gonna take the extra focus on this one. This isn't I shouldn't say. I was pretty focused on JFK, this director's cut, when I got that in my mail. But it's
well, I guess the best analogy is when he goes off and starts this journey. This is the key point in the movie where you're going to be on this journey or you're getting off.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying everyone's not going to be here to the end. I can tell my cousin who likes more mainstream movies and stuff, it doesn't maybe enjoy character development or
right.
This is not going to be something that intrigues him. He's going to be asking too many questions. He's going to be
right. Come on, why is Ad Rock going to all these Motel 9s?
Right.
No, and if you sit back and it's a 90-minute movie, how difficult is it to sit back and wait? You'll get the answer.
Right.
So, but the weird thing about Sam is he shows up at Joe's apartment just firing off fireworks. That has nothing to do with Motel 9s or whatever. I mean, it's just telling you. I mean, it's solely for the audience to tell them, this is going to mean something. And so,
and you are Joe in that moment too, because Sam's literally, I think, on a roof, almost like if not on a rooftop, on a separate building, he's shooting off Roman candles, and having a time of his life. And then he connects eye with Joe, and he immediately turns into a kid that spilt milk. He's like, oh no, what'd I do?
Right.
And they connect eyes, and he's on the phone, and you're in there with him, what is this? Mm-hmm. So immediately you're intrigued with Joe, about all the things he's doing right now. So in that case of point, it hooked me right there.
Yeah. As for Angie, it takes a few more calls before you realize she's trying to get in Joe's pants. By giving him here's all, why pay for a stranger's funeral? Oh, you need sick days. Well, I can throw a few of those on you.
It's amazing how this movie from 1992 can do more women character development over a voice over a phone than Wonder Woman can do in 2.5 hours in the newest movie.
Okay, I was about to say, first Wonder Woman
in the newest
bad.
movie.
Yeah.
Now, the first movie, really cool. The newest movie, they kind of went a little off board. I didn't like it as much because they didn't stay true to the character.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how much you learn from this lady. And it's not just from the phone calls she has with Joe throughout the trip.
Yeah. So basically you get to Joe picking up the ashes from before they could get thrown out. And he just goes on his bike and starts riding for El Dorado, Nevada. And he stops at a Motel 9 in Barstow, California. And
did you catch the commercial?
Oh, shoot.
When he first popped in, it was a commercial, and I thought it was so 90s. It was a Postman joke.
Oh yeah, the postal
postman blew
shooting,
up or
right?
something. Like
Right, he was
postal.
he was putting mail bombs in the mailboxes of people who ever responded to correspondence from Planned Parenthood, and then he blows himself up.
Which is immediately I was like, what?
Well, no, and that's a true statement of the 90s, because I was really the only
100%.
That's
I transferred there.
Well, I mean, we definitely had all the postman shootings in the 90s, but when you add in the anti-abortion thing, it's like, well, that was the only thing I think we were worried that George H.W. Bush was going to do was work to.
Well, they throw in every once in a while weird drug PSA. So now that you're talking,
right,
it might be just to overturn and all that ridiculous fear that maybe they were installing. Like, look at this, and maybe bringing all those stories up to 11.
Yes.
Because to the point to their ridiculous of nature.
Right, and I mean that even goes to when you say the drug PSAs. Well, so we'll get to that. So Sam,
I'm sorry. This I'll stick with you on this. I'm sorry I get too excited. I feel like I'm Charlie Day and that meme behind me. I'm trying to tell you like it's a whole bunch of strings behind me.
Everything. So at the Barstow Motel 9. As a former hospitality professional, horrible hospitality, by the manager, and I think it's cool when John Doe checks out. Well, why did he take your license and your pink slip? I think it was because he was an asshole. And I
was reading too much into it at this time, because that's what I was thinking after the PSA. I thought this was the establishment saying, well, these are the rules, and ethics means so much to me.
Yeah,
it's so important. So I have to do this because I don't trust. Like, I'm not ethical. Like, he was almost a very one of those. David Spade should have played him in one of those. Like he was very smarmy.
I know, and I can say from hospitality, it's like I will drive as a concierge. I will drive your ass to a Walgreens to get yourself a what would I say? A Visa gift card to put as a deposit. But again, I would offer you that, not just like we're just gonna hold on to cat or like all that bollocks. So
took his pink slip to his bike too.
Yeah, right. No, and like I'd punch a mother smegger in the face over that one.
The big thing was he wanted to be on the first floor, and he's like, we like to
that one is like, that's total bullshit. I can always
the guy's like, he puts him on the second floor because there's already one guy on the bottom floor.
I definitely know how to work around all that stuff. It's 6 years in that field. No, it's like, the last thing you need is waking up in the morning and hearing like, oh, and the guy before you was an asshole. But you get of course you have Ad Rock Sam, and he's just pitching a fit about everything wrong with the room, and I get that. Believe me, I hate this. I do my best never to say a thing, and whenever I stay after working for four or 5-star hotels for 6 years. But so Sam knows Joe, obviously. Joe knows Sam. They don't know how they know each other, and Sam, I get a lot of I was getting a lot of, and it was more of a paranoia, like, oh no, we are not going with this bullshit angle of the long lost son, I hope.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I've traveled a lot, just doing comedy and being in a lot of truck stops. So when he came up, I immediately got the vibe like he just needed someone.
Oh,
like,
no, I worked at a truck stop for 6 years. So yeah,
you see it. Yep. So I immediately took that route. But now that you put on that side, I'm glad that wasn't a possibility and they stuck with the latter for sure, because I don't know if that necessarily would have been. I don't know if that would have fit the themes as well, or at
Right.
least the non-themes. It would have made too much.
Yeah, too much.
In my eyes.
If you're writing yourself a story about morals and responsibilities, which this is not.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be The Long Lost Son, but but thankfully it's not. So Sam is fascinated by Joe. He even buys his own motorcycle on a whim for the most part, just so he could travel with Joe. And we get to his obsession with Motel 9s eventually. And it does pay off greatly, honestly. I mean, it's a brief moment in a bar. But yeah.
Well,
so,
yeah, they tease you at first.
Yes.
Because you're they go
they keep
Joe
coming up
them.
with they keep coming
Joe
up with
point blank.
Yeah. Why are you obsessed with Motel 9s? And of course, Sam at least has his backup plan. Like, oh, I'm an inspector. I'm undercover.
Right.
Like, no, it's a classic. I mean, Sam is honestly like it's classic. I don't want to say psychotic behavior, but he keeps looking for a reason to like justify why he sticks to a point. So I guess that is borderline psychotic experience.
He reminded me with a mixture, which is going to be insane that he even got this, because ADHD with bipolar.
Yeah, no, I could see that.
Because he would get so fixated on things, but they would never finish him through.
Yeah.
And he would have his highs and lows. And I think that's why even like I have my mental problems, but I relate to him so well.
Yeah.
But even people that don't, I think, could relate to him, because we've all had highs and lows, and that's something that's universal.
Yeah, it's really just the only thing people definitely can't relate to Sam with is if they haven't accepted their own trauma in their life.
Right.
And once you do that, it's a very like you can't help but feel for Sam. He's and this it eventually all pays off in the end again. Right. That's the beauty. Like, it is really just observations, and it's kind of like, honestly, this movie kind of feels true to life, despite all the insane characters who Joe never calls insane. Like, no, this is just people, and that's how you should approach life. I think, like, when you get to Lin Shaye, horror icon, probably going to be best remembered as the roommate to Cameron Diaz in something about Mary. But when you get to
Celeste was her name. I remember
Celeste,
that.
Right.
Celeste.
Yeah. I just can't remember.
Which I had to say, that threw me for a loop. Because the whole situation to get to that, like, I don't even know how to paint the scene. I actually remember when Celeste and the barbecue shop in the middle of the desert show up, I paused it. I was like, wife, come watch this. Like, just this uncontextualized, out of context scene. And she's like, what is this? But it is, to me, 1992 in a capsule.
Yeah.
Like, all the fear, all the ridiculousness, like even when they walk into the barbecue shop in the middle of nowhere, they're the PSA over the radio, you get a little bit of. It's almost like little Easter eggs that make it intrigue me a little bit. But it was something else. Celeste definitely brought to the scene, which I think adds to the realism, which it's crazy because they made the characters so outlandish, but they're so developed, they seem real. Because if you've ever went on a trip, you're meeting a guy that talks to you too long and tells you his whole origin story like it's a Marvel movie. And that's kind of what happens with each person here.
Right. And you don't get much more development beyond. They just want to get their story out. Now you know it and move on. So Sam picks up a motorcycle on his own, and eventually, like, you get I wouldn't say codependent, you get symbiotic relationship started when Joe breaks down, and it's bloody Timothy Leary who picks him up off the side of the road. And there's the best PSA when Sam asks, "Oh, you got that Oh, you can get that chain? Cool. Do you have any beer? I got Cristal. You got speed?
Yeah.
No, I have champagne. And then he goes on, how speed is for those who want to seem like they control their destiny.
Oh wow! See,
and this is the king of LSD, Timothy Leary.
Well, dude, now that you said that, though, it's opening more doors in the movie. Maybe I don't know, because he throws a little, just a little monologue, but it has a resounding effect through the whole thing.
Right.
Because even then, because he helps out Joe.
Yep.
Gets his. They're going to get a rivet. Go back to his. I love his wording. He's going to go back to his barn where he has a whole bunch of machinery paraphernalia or something like that. I was like, I've never heard that before. That was amazing.
So,
and even then, Joe's like, "No, get away from me, Sam." And Sam's like, "Nah, this guy's crazy." Like you said before, I don't trust him.
Yeah, and Joe's just like, "No, like." You think everyone's insane is basically the thing he goes with Sam. And then you get to so Sam and Joe doesn't accept Sam until we get to the sheriff character who's hunting down John Cusack. He's made it his life goal to hunt down John Cusack, somebody who just dines and dishes.
One-eyed fascist fighting John Cusack.
Yes,
dude,
who does it
all out.
Right, and he's claiming he's part of the freaking group that brainwashed Patty Hearst. And that's when they finally. I think that's once they experience that character, that's when they finally. You get their relationship, and what I'm really curious is I gotta go and research when did because I know John Cusack was great friends with Hunter S. Thompson. I really want to know how that happened, and I've seen the meme. You think you're cool, but you're never going to be as cool as Hunter S. Thompson, Bill Murray, and John Cusack in a blow-up doll cruising the Las Vegas Strip together, and you see an image of that.
Yeah.
I know Bill Murray. He did he portrayed Hunter S. Thompson in Where the Buffalo Roam, and then you got Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and the Rum Diaries, and it's kind of like, where the hell did John Cusack fit into this?
That's true.
Yeah,
that's something you'd have to research because I know the Bill Murray one has a production site to did he do Caddyshack so they could finance one of those movies?
I think so. Yeah, and wouldn't surprise me.
I'll do. I think it might have been Stripes even, or he was going to do one of his legendary movies if he had financing to do this one.
Right.
It was really a heart project. I wish it's hard to kind of find. I just randomly.
I own a copy on iTunes, so it's not. Okay. I probably overpaid for it, of course. When things are,
you have to get that nowadays. Anything lost media sucks.
Oh no, I'm still looking for a copy of the 1995 Albert Pulin classic Heat Seeker, which was which I saw on I think you'd see it on Stars or whatever movie sites, movie channels every now and then. But I'm a cord cutter, obviously, so. I'm not getting a hold of that. It's a real ridiculous movie. I'm a big Gary Daniels fan. If you know your British action heroes, and so.
Well, I'll throw out a person I think would be in this movie, Don Cheadle.
Yes, no, I didn't.
Don Cheadle has a cameo.
I don't know if it was a cameo at that point. I think that's more
one line.
I think that's more of the guy trying to get work at that time.
Right. He was a paid actor. This was his line for it. But before he was in Iron Man and
the
great stuff we know him in.
Right. I think Out of Sight's when he finally broke out big. Steven Soderbergh. So it's and this goes back again as I keep going, like the 90s did a lot to try doing weird ass road trip movies. I don't know if you've seen it. I've seen I got a VHS copy. I know it was on DVD briefly. The Doom Generation with Rose McGowan.
Oh no.
Okay, so that movie is basically, that was 95, I think, and Rose McGowan got a lot of coverage on the Independent Spirit Awards and everything, but there's some Harvey Weinstein bullshit behind it. I mean,
that sucks, man. It just kind of you're a wrestling fan too, so it sucks that you're not even new to this. This is the dilemma of art and the person creating the art.
Oh, this podcast has stood up for freaking Marty Scurll many a times. Like, I say that is like, all right, a couple weeks ago, the podcast was for the little girl who lived down the lane with Jodie Foster. Gregory was the guest, and like, okay, and why are we like? I know that's not a naked Jodie Foster, but why do we have stunt tits and ass, and why are we trying to sexualize a 14-year-old? Never mind the fact this is done from this was the same year as frickin' Taxi Driver. Like, yeah,
I mean,
like, no, like, and then, you know,
just because you can do it for art doesn't mean you should,
right? But I'm just saying with Marty Scurll, you know, it like the person he had sex with says it was rape. He disputes that, but everybody just is hung up with she was 16. Like, you know, I hate to say that. You know, it's like, yeah, we cheered for Luke Wilson in frickin' Old School after sleeping with the boss's high school daughter. Like, you know,
it's one of those things you'll look back, and you can even look back at just media for the last 10 years, and things cringe. Some things just cringe. Like,
right.
There's a reason why the American Pie series ain't really held up as much as Animal House or something like that.
Well, I would say Animal House is far worse than the entire 14-year-old thing.
Well, probably too. I probably learned too much from Porky's that I need.
Oh gosh, yeah, no.
That too. So like, I can't.
The moment you stick your dick into a shower glory hole, you know, all bets are off.
We were watching a horror movie that was PG-13, and like you said, there was full frontal nudity and gore, and I was like, babe, 80s PG-13 was just a different time. The rating system was just, they would let anything. It seemed like I guess that was just how, I guess.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
You
I
could
don't
go.
know the trends. It's just
right,
what it was.
But I'm just saying, it's like there. You know, I'm not saying there's a reason why they have weird ass actual statutory laws, and like,
yeah,
I will stand for you know, book Marty Scurll. Like, unless you get a criminal investigation, he may have just been an idiot.
Well, in movies, it always, the whole Roman Polanski situation always boggled me, because people would actually go to other countries, like The Ninth Gate.
Well, my first theatrical Roman Polanski was The Ghost Rider 2010, and it's okay. That's honestly brilliant direction if you can get us to believe that it was shot in Massachusetts. But
right.
I mean, the entire point of that movie, though, I think, and again, it's weird ass shit. I don't like, oh no, Roman Polanski shouldn't have done that with a 13-year-old. And it's like, yeah, but the 13-year-old seems far more aware of what she was doing. And that, you know, I'm just saying, like, the victim doesn't have, the alleged victim, and I'm only going alleged because she doesn't think herself as a victim. No, I knew what I was doing. It's more about the fact that you shouldn't even, you should be you know, you should restrain yourself from doing it with somebody who wants it done to them. And but but the Ghost Rider is basically trying to, I think it's an obvious statement saying, yeah, I screwed a 13-year-old, but George W. Bush created started a war with no pretense. Who's worse? Yeah.
That's yeah, I feel you, man. I understand.
So
it's one of those things you just go, you're just like, why?
Well, when it comes to professional wrestling, look, Jerry Lawler even let people talk about it in Memphis. Like, oh, and you're going to jail for sleeping with a 13-year-old. That was in a freaking promo. I think it may have been Eddie Gilbert bringing up.
They did it on a roast too, Jim Cornette roast.
Oh, jeez, dang!
Dropped it on it too.
Jeez, it's like, yeah. So we're letting Jerry hang around, but a guy who may have made a mistake once. And it even goes deeper. Again, I'm with the wrestling. I know the wrestling scene. Like David Starr was like the first guy to get broken. And it's like, okay, have we considered Aziz Ansari kind of stuff? Like, I get trauma. I mean, I understand trauma and like stupid stuff you could be doing, but
well, I think this is what's great about this movie is they show trauma in the right way.
Yes,
like with Sam's character, and even in an adolescence when we meet at the very end with the new female character,
right? Gloria, I think was her name.
Yeah. But we right now they were just the cop comes and it's trying to catch John, says he looks just like Sam, and he pulls out the biggest Smith and you would think Dirty Harry would blush at the size of this rifle. It is threatening Joe and all them, and that's the moment where Joe and Sam, I think, really bond.
Right, like
we're an understanding. We only have each other out.
Right, exactly. It's the world is against us. So yeah, I brought up, but the June Generation, that movie is all overly sexualized. It's Gregor Rocky, which is a director I love, but so it's basically Rose McGowan and her boyfriend, played by Justin Long, are just doing their own thing. You got an excellent soundtrack, 9 Inch Nails, all this, 95 stuff, and then they meet up with this one guy. I think I can't ever pronounce the actor's name right. I think Jonathan Strache, who basically is is a facsimile for Satan. And they're just basically going around the it's like after a angry Korean gas station attendant was pissed they could not pay for they didn't have any money to pay for the $6.66 worth of merchandise. And then our devil facsimile goes and tackles him, and he ends up shooting if the guy gets shot, and then they're on the run. You don't necessarily know if they're actually on the run, and like,
dude, I remember I watched this movie, and but it just because I watched it once, and it was at that time. But I know what you're saying. All right, cool. All right, I'm on board.
Yeah. So that's it. So as I say, it's weird. That just tells you that.
Space and this might be a little off, but it's easy for me to find independent movies by the time I got into it. The internet was around. Sundance had it. How was it really in the 95? Because I remember if it wasn't on the Sundance or IFC, and usually most of the times, like on my Prime Star DVD, like I didn't really get anything other than the mainstream stuff. Like every once in a while, maybe the video store would have something that I would want to see, but it was really hard. I had to wait till I was older to get some of these older movies off my checklist.
Yeah.
Because so how was it back then? Did you just have to get special screenings or just bootlegs?
So for me in the 90s, so I'll be 42 next Tuesday. So for me in the 90s, growing up in Morton, Illinois, 10 miles west of Peoria, but this is the most snooty community in the central Illinois. I don't care what, like, sorry to badmouth Muhammad, the little burb outside of Champaign. I get enough of their bullshit. So I honestly was an asshole probably in high school when it came to counterculture. I went to high school basically because I was trying to get a wrestling scholarship. I did not care about anything. I got into anime, so I had Suncoast. Suncoast, I guess, was the big thing. Still had VHS store, tape. If you could find video stores, and that's, I think, how you got everything. But I can't say independent cinema was a thing to the mainstream until Pulp Fiction happened, and everybody complaining about Forrest Gump winning Best Picture over Pulp Fiction. But once Pulp Fiction happened, then everybody's like, "What is this?" If you don't want blockbuster bullshit, which I think I will say it. Maybe I'm thinking myself too mature at the time. Like, no, I can't really say this is, good stuff, good storytelling. You started looking for this stuff, and as I say, you did it primarily through video stores, and eventually, I'd say by the early 2000s, like, we finally got digital cable and IFC and Sundance, and then you'd see. But this is before IFC was bought by A&E, so it was independent film channel.
Oh, I remember when it first came out. It leaned hard.
Yeah, that's where I saw most of my Gregor Rocky stuff after. I mean, I saw Splendor on, I think, Stars or something. June Generation and somewhere.
I remember,
but
it was hard for me to get into. It still is a little bit, because I was just location raised, et cetera, but I remember watching Requiem for a Dream, and remembering that director's name and how
Darren
Pi,
Aronofsky,
Pi, his
right,
Pi, that movie. I love Darren. I'm sorry, now as soon as you said it, big fan of his. Didn't he do Birdman as well?
No, that was Inarritu, I think it was. He did Pi, he then did Requiem, and then he did I'm sure there was something in the middle of there, but then he really got a lot of attention for The Wrestler, then Black Swan, and then he's like the premier guy who's breaking down.
Oh, he did The Fountain too, didn't he?
Yes, The Fountain, Mother.
Did he do Mother?
Yeah, he did Mother.
I lost a movie job because they were like, "What movie did you want to see that summer?" And I was like, "I kind of want to see Mother." And they're like, "Oh," and they ushered me out of the interview immediately.
Oh,
geez. Well, I guess I should have said like the Marvel movie or something. I don't know. I really wanted to see it.
Right. So yeah, that Aronofsky. So it's basically like, I didn't know, and I would say until I was trying to be hip and cool. Tarantino, whatever, like Suicide Kings, which is derivative of that.
I remember now. I remember exactly what you're saying, because
there was so much
came out.
And
then everyone, what about Reservoir Dogs? And then you learned about the other one.
Yes.
And then you're learning about all this. It kind of.
Oh no,
you're 100% correct. I'm only 35. But
right.
I was a little bit younger, but my parents also didn't care about ratings, so I watched a lot of stuff I probably shouldn't have.
For me, I grew like being the second eldest, and when your older sister has Asperger's disorder, who, she functions fine, but she's pretty much like, I'm not going to go and do anything to upset anybody. So I was basically raised as the oldest child in my family. And everything got looser as like, oh, it did, Russ is fine. What are we going to let Ryan get away with, my little sister? And then, Rand, the baby, gets away with everything. At least in terms of watching stuff. Honestly, it was it's inverse when it actually came to discipline, because, oh, I wasn't a bad kid. Oh, Ryan had her moments. Why isn't Rand getting good grades? Like, no, it doesn't work that way. But so
I appreciate that, because I was always thinking like how hard it was to see. You hear of these probably like people that did have to look for these movies by like special screenings, and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, because Roadside Prophets, I'll be honest with you, didn't watch it when it first came out. I watched it in 2007 on, I think, the Sundance Channel at like 4 a.m. in the morning, and I was like at a nihilistic what to do with my life thing, and Joe came on. I was like, I'm gonna ride with Joe. Yeah, and that's kind of what it was. The stories, like, that's where I was at.
Well, it especially hit me, hard right now, because Joe's 38 in the movie, but it's like, this really touches on middle-aged alienation. Because when I moved from Peoria to Champaign, Urbana at 36, and it was basically because I had kind of outgrown all my friends. Well, I don't know if I outgrew or they outgrew me. I didn't I was still chasing, like, at that time it was trying to figure out a way to get back into look, I am not a retired professional wrestler. I have a bag with a weekend's worth of tights in my car at all times. So if I'm called upon, I can bump. But, I'm trying to figure out, how do I get back into it after I had a mental breakdown over, I guess I could even relate to Joe with this. Like, I went bankrupt over a heroin addict's addiction, who was the best friend of the first girl I ever fell in love with. So yeah, I'm just saying that kicked the shit out of me. That killed my career wrestling wise. I have a great trainer in Danny Daniels. This is the only guy I can say who's ever believed in me, despite he had his doubts, and he basically put it to me like, can you do this? Yeah. And then I flake out because of my depression and everything. But
I used to, at this time, I made up a kind of a saying, like, and it was true at the time. Maybe it was kind of just me down in my dumps at this time, but I some of the biggest things in your life, you have no choice in it at all. They just happen to you, and it's how you react afterwards.
Right.
It's the real test. And that's what I felt about Joe in my situation, kind of like yours, but my situation was more my fault. Like, my situation, me being, for layman's of terms, a loser, that I considered myself at that time, not doing my dreams, barely making it by couch hopping, and all this was because of my own doing. I was responsible for it. So that was what fueled my depression, was like, and that's why I felt so melancholy with Joe. Maybe not because that's what his character was, but that's what I felt my connection was with him. It's like, yeah, dude, we've all made decisions. We're here. We're just trying to do the best of it.
Right.
So to see him as he goes and slowly, potentially goes to the way of making him happy, which I like. It doesn't show him happy.
Right.
It shows him making it there. And that's the realest thing about it. There's no guarantee you're going to get happy, but you at least should try.
Oh, right. No, when your options is Idaho, Alaska, El Dorado is the last song in the movie Screams. But what I'm getting at with Joe, it's like, okay, but I don't know. I can't. I made stupid decisions. I mean, I grew, like, I didn't really get a chance. I would say I didn't really get a chance to properly to make mistakes, I suppose. It's like I was very basically, up until I realized I was not going to be a computer engineer. I just, like, what decisions seem right according to everybody else. And then that's my screw up. and then I get into trying to figure out adulthood on my own. And so, as I say, I moved from Peoria to Champaign. It's basically because I had two options. It was Champaign or Chicago, and I thought Chicago would be too expensive. Heck, then when you get shootings at two of the three places you lived at, it's like, oh no, Chicago would have been fine, and at least I would have had all my wrestling friends.
Yeah, I thought about moving to St. Louis. I'm like, oh, the shootings. I live in a small town right now where people are not like a person got shot for answering his door.
Right.
He thought it was a delivery guy, and a guy shot him point blank. I'm like, well, hope I don't need to answer my door in the next 25 years.
Right.
Like,
so I'm just basically saying it's like I probably should have moved to Chicago, but I didn't know I figured everything would be safer down in Champaign. Basically, it was a choice of which areas I knew best, and those were the two. And
to mirror what Joe was doing, that's what Joe he was. If this was the movie, they were every character that came across that would tell a little tidbit was very all about nonconformity and finding what's happy for you, even though if it's scary and terrifying.
Right. Nobody, and I think that's the biggest problem with parents for the most part is they don't want you to ever deal with anything. I mean, they're your parents. They love you. They don't want you to deal with anything scary but they can only.
You had good parents. I know that was normal parents. My parents did something different, which has made as a husband and a father now a little bit different because I am parent. My parents grew up in a hard school. That's why maybe I'm hard on myself. So it was very self-discipline, accountability.
Right.
So like when I was down in my dumps, I never blamed her. I blamed myself, maybe a little too much and maybe a little too hard, to the point where I felt the best I could ever attain is contentness. Just me living and not being miserable.
Oh no, and I will say that I got two different. My parents are from two different worlds, and my mom was pretty much was trying to just find that. My dad wanted everything, wanted the world, and he ended up honestly taking it. And it's that's my big problem is like, okay, well, he set such a high freaking standard.
I feel you.
Yeah. So when it comes to, but as I say, for me, it wasn't.
Well, that's I was supposed to be the guy that went to college.
Yeah.
And,
I was
get his full ride. I had to get my full ride. No one's going to pay for my college. They told me that in kindergarten. We can't afford your college. So if you don't want to work at this factory, you're going to do that. And what sucks with is that overwhelming pressure your whole school life is that one F means that's your future.
Right.
Or there you can study all that, but this one kid is just smarter than you.
Yeah.
And you have to, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to end up in a Champaign. Because I was a straight A student, but my my ACT scores weren't any good. I would do the work and pass, but I didn't have the ACT scores. Like I was the smartest of the average at best.
Dude, isn't that it sucks?
Yeah,
that was a humbling moment for me too, because I live in a small little town, and I was always smart. I didn't have to try to stay that way. I was always top 5. Most of the time I didn't even have to show up, and I'd still get A's. But when I took my ACT and it came back, you're average. I was like, well, shit, dude, I am just a small fish in a big barrel, pond.
It just came to me.
It's a humbling moment.
Yeah. Well, for me, I was exactly like John Doe, and I would say even to the extent of, I'd easily be able looking for somebody to connect with, and it was Dave to begin with. Like as I say, I left Peoria because all my friends, and I consider them genuine friends, but they were either serving me drinks or sticking their tits in my face. And it's like, everybody's going to outgrow this even. And all my friends, I'd say from high school and even from wrestling, had all settled down, started families and everything. So it's like, all right, I'm not ready to do any of that. So I got to find somewhere new. And
Dude. Yeah, I was 27, still doing the Joe Mosley, the John Doe, because I was like, dude, I just want to have a good time. What's so wrong with this? Trying to live, work a little bit, have a little fun. We all chip in on blah blah blah.
Right.
And I was living it, and then it comes to a point where everyone grows up, and you're sitting there, and the couches run out. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, I stay there for 2 weeks. I'm getting ready to get set up, and my buddy's like, my girlfriend's pregnant. You gotta leave.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you can't even be upset because you're like, you understand, you're 27,
right?
But you don't know what you want to do, and you definitely don't want to do what he's doing, and what everyone else is doing. You see that they have a house and maybe a car paid off, but you're really not into those things,
right? And and I'm still, and truthfully, I'm doing it like, okay, I'm doing a podcast, and I got my 2 cats, and it's like, yeah, I'd love to find some crazy people like this. And I guess that kind of even feeds into how Joe is so accepting of Sam eventually. And you have that scene where he ends up at that where they split up, and Sam like, no, I'm gonna continue on to that Motel 9 and Eli. And Joe's like, no, it's raining. And we're on motorcycles. And it's like, and then Joe has that drink with the hotel manager or whatever his position is. And it's like, no,
that's when that guy basically drops like, if Joe keeps doing what he's doing, who is he going to become?
Right. You have to find a friend. So me,
and what I felt funny, because I'll be honest with you, it was this whole time I was like, now, because you're looking at it 2022, we're looking back almost like 30
years
at this, but it's because of how colorful it is and how and the characters are all, at first, until he met the strange woman and hooked up with her, I thought it was an allegory about a man chasing from his sexuality, because the woman on the phone doesn't want no part of him. He only connects with other males and all that. Now, by the time he meets the dancer halfway through, that goes completely out of the wall. And that's when I start realizing, just have fun with the movie and the characters and the journey, because I was looking too much into it. But like, just how Dave, he kicks off. He can always seem so natural talking to other people, but when it came to women characters or something, he was running from his life. Well, it was mostly the Angie over the phone, and then his past. But then come to find out, he was just running from his life that he's manifested.
Right. And when you look at Dave, and it kind of further helps that initial pretense you provided. Like, Dave is playing, like, as I say, I don't think playing video games at a strip club is a bad way to go. But the fact of the matter is, he's playing video games at a strip club.
Yeah, like, I mean, it just seemed like maybe this was the subtext. Like, I was trying, because you always hear movies. I'm such a big movie guy. I try to find what the director was going for, maybe the tone, and that's when it finally hit me when he met, and I believe her name is Miss Labia.
Mirage,
which is literally like a Bond villain, like a Bond.
She does tell him at the when they depart finally that her name is Prudence, but Labia Mirage. And
but when that happened, I was like, okay, I know what this is. This is just a guy on a journey now,
right?
And the characters he meets along the way are just characters. That's it. I'm looking too much into it, and once I started to, like, I had an enjoyable ride, but once I started doing that, I was more looking into where this journey is going to take him. And after he meets Labia, does he meet her the second time he picks her up on the road, and that's when they go find Sam again,
Sam,
after they get separated after the rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's sitting there, because he meets her, and then he's sitting there thinking, man, remember Sam? They have a little conversation, pillow talk, where he comes to the realization, man, like, that is my friend, huh?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. It's a movie about it's actually just a movie about finding purpose regardless of your age. This is definitely leans towards the middle age, and David Carradine's a great guide at one point in regards to all of this.
Give him maybe you can throw on that, because they finally meet, go to El Dorado. It's not what they seem.
Yeah.
And it's literally just like a field campground area. And all of a sudden they meet Man in Black, David Carradine, playing a song. And he offers them to smoke out of a hookah.
Yes.
Now, I don't know what substance they smoked, because I've smoked some weed every once in a while in high school and all that. And I've never went on a trip these guys did. These guys went on a very magical journey where they like, it was very, it reminded me of Midsommar. Like, it turned into that bright. It was gray and then turned into a bright sunny day.
Right. I think it's now my experience with marijuana, and for me, I smoke about every night just to shut my brain down, and which is ironic because you can just a sheer amount of will, and you can go and put yourself in this place. If you want to be somewhere, marijuana can help.
Right.
And I think the entire point is, again, that it's like it's all a message from Carradine. Like, no, dude, just like, it is about making sure you live your life for a reason. And that's
he even said at the end about presidencies, because the guy was talking and they're kind of sobering
right
up.
George Reagan,
and he's like George Reagan. He's like, no, you mean George
Bush.
H. Bush. And he's like, I get him mixed up. And that was the most poignant thing he said.
Yes.
Like, these guys are going to do this and do that, you know, you can't. And I liked his character. I wish he did come back for the end, because the rumor was they had to rewrite the ending because he walked off the movie.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to see, like, if they were going to do kind of like a Red Dead Redemption type thing, where he's like a man in black that's the ultimate like moral decider, or like maybe not that grim like the Grim Reaper, but someone who was there watching. Like, I just didn't get. His character may have been just a guy that slept there on the lake, but dude, it just seems so much more than that, and I wish I could understand it. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense. When you have a strong character, you want more of it, and especially with what David Carradine represented at that point. I think it's I don't know how to make Carradine work at the end of the movie, you'd have to have Carradine at the beginning of the movie.
The only way I could see him working is they keep the ending the same and he just sings the song.
Yeah, that could have worked. But yeah, it's just basically
like because when I read that part, I was like, that threw me for a whole loop, because then as you said, like he went from, if he was there at the end, he went from just a colorful character he met from a journey to something more, and I couldn't pinpoint that. Right now, I can completely wrap my head around he's just an awesome guy. I wish he didn't leave. Thanks for the sleeping bags, bro. You know, like on the journey of this with Joe and Sam.
I think the point is that and I think you could get it from when Sam awakens Joe, putting another log on the fire or trying to die the flame down. It's like, I think you get it when Sam's like, no, we got to keep doing this. And it goes back to the conversation they were having about Roman gladiators who would refuse to fight, knowing that they would be crucified. And it's just basically, no, you got to live for something. And this is what Joe is supposed to live for right now, is finding El Dorado and delivering the ashes of a man he hardly knew.
Yeah, 100% correct. Now that you said that, I was trying to think there was something he said during that, but it was poignant. And he said, yes, the Spartans, because Sam asked him, like, why would they do that? They know they're going to die. And it's like, yeah, but their death is going to mean something.
You're right.
They didn't just sit and wait for it. They went and made it worth something. And that was 100% the whole story.
Right.
Like the fear and everything stopping you from doing this. But even if you fail, at least you're doing something.
Right.
Failing instead of sitting there waiting for death.
Oh no, I like to bring up how, I don't know, as a person who's dealt with clinical depression, it probably is still a depressed person, and probably doing my podcast juice, as I like to call the deep Eddie Cranberry at this point. It's like, I know I'm still a depressed person. But I go and bust my ass every day, and it comes down to, like, I go to bed and it's like, yep, all right, I made the best out of it. Hopefully I don't wake up. Like, I want to.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. So
I think this is maybe why this movie speaks to us in different ways too, but also in a similar linear path. Like, we each have our own unique takes away, but it is central theme embracing this the same way. I feel the same way too. Like, it sucks when you're a stand-up comic, you do podcasts, you have a beautiful wife of your dreams, you have a son, but all you feel is like you're failing them. You know, like you're trying your best, but it feels like, in my case, my depression roots from not being good enough.
Yeah.
And my family always leaving me, kind of like Sam and his whole motel.
Right.
So Sam's, I feel I'm the problem in every situation. So the best way to eradicate that is me to leave, or to me do that. So, like me, it's been hard to even just consider me a valuable person to be in a relationship with, and therefore stay around and not think I'm like poisoning somehow in my corrupt mind and stuff. A lot of my depression comes from that and my ADHD, where I try to do so much different projects like Sam, and I just can't do it. I set myself up to fail so much that when I do fail, it just confirms all those thoughts in my head about that role, like you're worthless or that just keep going. It just confirms that and affirms that to the point where it cycles the depression.
Yeah.
Where I'm at now is I'm aware of the cycle, so I try to break it before it happens.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really believe in prescription medication because it never worked for me.
Right. And
I'm not saying
hear
it
you
should
there.
work for. I had to do something different, and mine was just finding out. My mind is like Sam's, kind of. It's going to play tricks on me. It's going to say things, and if I'm aware of that beforehand, I know what it's doing. So I will like disarm its power. Sometimes it wins, though, man. I ain't gonna lie.
No. I understand that.
That closet feels real good sometimes. When it's all dark at night. Like, I'll just sit in here for a few days. What is it, Tuesday? I don't need a shower till Friday. I don't have nothing happening.
Well, I mean, the only thing I could suggest is that, like, I look at my dad, who wanted, like, he worked his ass off, could have probably ruled Caterpillar if he wanted to, but he wanted to have a family, and they were the most, and we are the most important thing to him, and that was his goal. So for me, like, I don't know, I'm a person who thinks the only way to live on is to give something to the world, and I don't find myself responsible enough to have children, so I'm on my own trying to make something out of it. And there's points like, oh, really wish I would have just accidentally knocked up this girl or this girl. It's like, no, I mean, it's like that would have given a child would have given me purpose. I mean, I've been even told, like, you just need a kid. And
that's why this movie is so good, because they have those conversations with those characters in it. Like, this is a perfect. I wish more. Like, it's not going to be a movie for everyone. I said that many times.
Oh no, it's
But if you're a certain male in a certain time in your life, this is going to speak to you. I don't mean to be gender specific.
No, but
if you are,
I'll
just say, if you are lost and in a somewhat way right now, and you don't know where the guidance is, this movie might help you just by the sheer fact that it's sympathetic.
It's sympathetic, and it just, in the end, our character who's lost everything to just try to pay tribute to somebody, and I can even relate to that. As I go and devote every podcast to my late best friend Stacia Harden, and the influence she's had on me, and like I gotta do her proud, if anything. And it's like, but the fact of the matter is, you keep going regardless, no matter what you lost. He lost the only thing that really represented anything in his life in this movie.
That's what's great about it. At the end, he's lost everything.
Yeah,
money, monetary, even purpose. Because at the end, they finally find the town. They find El Dorado's just a place, and they find out it's called Jackpot instead. I think that's what it was. Somehow they find. They reunite with everyone, like the stars align.
Right,
and the Motel 9, Labia's got a show over here, Sam's here, so they all reunite. Sam finally tells him what the obsession is about the Motel 9s.
Yep,
which is heartbreaking as hell. Which I feel his parents just left him there and changed his name. He just went to Motel 9 and changed his name and abandoned him. Yeah. So now he's basically going there trying to find him, hopefully.
Well, and he even acknowledges, like, yeah, I know that's not going to happen.
Right, but what else are you going to do?
Yeah, and but you know, they
go to the casino.
You know, and they hope that it's going to answer everything with a little luck.
They get a loan, and we've all men who may have thought of tons of dreams. I've always felt this. If you've lived in a dream world, you think, oh yeah, this plan's going to work. I feel it in my bones.
Yes. No.
They lose all their money, but they're going to get a $3,000 loan from from the casino to keep playing, and they're totally happy with it. They're like, okay, like they would give them $300,000, but they're just not that big of a company, so we'll just start with $3. Yeah, and they lose it all and have to. They lose
give
their
up
bikes.
their
Labia has to give her $200 extra to make it. That's when we find out her name, and they're standing like, what to do next? And Sam's like, hey, let's pay respects to Dave.
And they do that.
So now they're sitting there at the height. They have nothing left.
Yep.
And that's when the woman shows up.
Right, little Gloria. Yep. Yeah. And Sam can't let her go on her own.
Yeah.
And so eventually, like, I'll call you to Joe, and it's like, you can't call me, you don't know my last name.
Right.
And Joe eventually determines, well, I can't. He basically finds his family, finds his purpose, and ends all of his middle-aged alienation. Well, hopefully, I should say. They got to get to Alaska first. Yeah.
Yeah, because Gloria's like, where are you going? Like, Idaho, then maybe Alaska. But let's get just out of here. Where's Idaho? And they're actually going separate ways of the highway.
Right.
When he gets picked up, and Sam's like, dude, I'm going to miss you, Joe. Yeah. It's like, don't worry about it. You know, he knows what's up. He's going to sit there in the old buck. He's like, hey, young buck, I'm the old buck that's going to be a loner. Well, when he's finally sitting there, it realizes everything that's taught him. He doesn't have to be alone.
Right.
He doesn't have to do this lone wolf shit anymore.
Yeah.
People like him. And if he wants to go search for him, he can. He just simply crosses the road, gets in a car going to Idaho, tells them, like, I want to go to Idaho or Alaska. And that's credits roll. And I thought that was the most fitting thing in the world, because in any situation, to me, it was a better Castaway, if that makes sense. He was sitting there with a decision, what to do. And they gave you a little bit, but it was the right decision. Because in the situation, and even in life, you can't just sit there stagnant. And he was going to do something new for a change. And whatever happens. But at that point, that story was over.
Yep.
Whatever is happening from that car on is a different story. And I kind of like that. They did finish it up.
Yeah. So, and course, do it in 136 minutes. Well, probably only 132, but not 132, an hour 32, I should say. But yeah, it's just a narrative that I think anybody, as you said, and I think that really makes me appreciate the film more. It's like if you're feeling lost at some point, and this does it better than Doom Generation, which is like, well, younger people. I'll just put it that way.
I have to talk about one scene because it is the scene where Sam is trying to impress Joe on the bike, and he wrecks the bike.
Yeah,
and then he hallucinates all the other bikers playing golf,
and
then that's when the bikers talk to him. And I believe I got from it. He was trying to say Sam to be true to himself.
Yes.
Aspects like you're doing all this trying to just be true to yourself.
Yeah.
We know who you are,
right? Especially
and then they go to the shack and the barbecue place right after. Like this is literally he wakes up, sees the shack. Do you have a crankshaft for a 57 right here,
Bonneville? Yeah.
And that's where I was like, whoa, this is surreal at this point. Like what? Like I almost felt like the movie was going to pull something on me, especially when they said the people had diseases, like the main guy has cancer and
Lynn Shay had AIDS.
Which my wife was watching that part and she replied with, I think both of them have AIDS, if that's the case. And I don't know, but I'm pretty sure because this is 1992 and that it was its peak. It was very strong then, but I'm sure they're safe and all that. But it was definitely something.
Well, there's if you've seen the movie Spiral from the Book of Saw.
I have not.
If you like any of the Saw movies, any of them, you got to see it. But there's an entire bit about Chris Rock just thrown in there as he's like undercover trying to bust some drug dealers, and he's waiting to compete in a robbery with them, not compete, to be part of a robbery with him, and he's going on a little rant because they're waiting for the other drug dealers they're going to steal from, like Forrest Gump. Like, oh man, he had it rough. Oh man, he ended up with Jenny, and like, oh yeah, after Jenny got AIDS, like there isn't no Forrest Gump 2. Like, yeah. So
I actually got in trouble at work since we're on this. I told people, and I truly believe this, Forrest Gump is not that good of a movie, and they got real upset with me. And I was like, you just don't understand. You're supposed to like it. It's a nostalgia highlight reel of American history about a lovable loser. God damn, I'll give it my money now. But but like it's a better Christmas story in my opinion, and that's my hot take. Like
no, there's not.
It's sponsored by Dr. Pepper.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I don't know, Forrest Gump. I don't think you can deny it's. I think it was a summation of the end of, say, that era in Hollywood. Like, as they say, people are angry that Pulp Fiction didn't win Best Picture that year, and it's kind of like, well, this was kind of like Robert Zemeckis, Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This is the guy like at his strongest point, and everything works in Forrest Gump. I think. I can't deny that it works. I'm just saying it's really a question is what's the soul of the movie, and when you compare it to a movie like Pulp Fiction, which Pulp Fiction, I hate to say it, doesn't have a soul, but I think that's kind of the point. And this movie is trying to be all about soul, and it's like, but it just seems so manufactured. Like, I don't think there's necessarily any faults with Forrest Gump aside from Jenny being a total see you next Tuesday.
Well, yeah, it's kind of my thing. Like, I love the movie, but when people just, I think
it's not like it's hardly a movie worth remembering because it's too perfect.
Yeah,
it is Ronald Reagan 1980 the movie.
the biggest drama you have is the Jenny part, and everything else
Right.
is just gee guys, like he went to Vietnam and came back fine.
Yeah.
Like it's a little. I think they could have darkened it up a bit, but then again, it would change the whole town.
Right.
It wouldn't have been what it was.
Yeah. So it's just too. It might just be too perfect a movie. And
when you said this movie, Roadside Prophets, was 1992, and after I watched it again, I realized this to me was the beginning of cinema going to different directions.
Oh no,
and I think this might be even a precursor to maybe the stuff was going, because to me it doesn't feel like a 1992 Surf Ninjas movie at all. Like this feels very like late 90s contemporary.
Oh yeah,
like.
Well yes, it was ahead of its time. I mean, keep in mind, people discovered Reservoir Dogs after Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
So, and Reservoir Dogs I think is 91. So it's just it was all getting prepped, and this is the same time as the going back to Bikini Kill, Kathleen Hanna, Mrs. Adrock. This is going back to a time where I think people knew things should change or were afraid that things were going to change for the worse. That took 9/11 to solidify that. But I think there was enough no, we really got to go and get ourselves out of this Reagan happiness. And and I would say after Clinton got in, and then people were not happy with Clinton for 2 years, and then everything started to course correct, and then of course we get a couple of airplanes flying into buildings, and then trying to fight a war with somebody who didn't actually start a war, and all that. So I mean,
you put in perspective, it was before that time.
Yeah, but
we didn't know how to be gritty.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's
we needed stuff like this. We didn't know how to show the emotion.
Right. We were discouraged from it until Clinton got
and that might mirror why so much of music videos were getting so much acclaim then, because they were maybe pushing the boundaries,
the only voice of protest.
Right.
Yeah. So
well, see, I like this movie because it felt like a very I'm gonna sound stupid for saying, but a silent protest of conformity.
Oh yeah, it wasn't. No,
it's a middle-aged people. Like to me, because these kids.
You nailed it by just saying the middle-aged people. It's like the youth is always going to, at least if they're smart, is always going to protest the current situation. It's when you get people like John Doe, basically again a guy who had been protesting since Reagan, and then he's
fought his fight.
Right. But basically, you got to keep this fight going.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the thing. Yeah. Well, it sucks too, because it's refreshing to see a movie like this when you grew up with Ray Romano, King of the Queens, and the only male figures that you have in your life other than the stepdads that roll in are lovable losers that get made fun of for 30 minutes. Like, they're just dumb.
Right.
And it's just like, is that your role? Like, I was raised on Homer. Like, the biggest role model I had in cinema or just TV was Dan Connor from Roseanne.
Yes.
Like, Lord, I don't look good in flannel, so this ain't gonna work for me. But it was refreshing at the time when I knew. That's why when you posted about this movie, I was like, yeah, dude, I watched this. Because I wanted to know if that feeling held up, and today it did.
All right.
I'm at a different point in my life where I'm kind of in like stage 2 of Joe Mosby. Before I watched this movie, I didn't do comedy. I didn't do podcasts. I just meddled away. I went out and found myself, and in the journey of that, I became overall happy. Now, was it sunshine and rainbows?
Oh, no. Never is.
It was regret.
Yeah.
And I met a lot of colorful people along the way. And I think this
Smack.
It encapsulates the best you can in 90 minutes.
Right.
And that, as far as I could see in cinema, because I'm sure there's a way they could do it better with CGI and all that. But I just think the tone, feeling, and music is something that speaks to people, no matter what. If you're in a certain age and time in your life.
Well, this movie offer, despite all the nihilism underneath it, it offers optimism, and that is something, like, as I say, the next movie, road trip movie I think of is Doom Generation, and no, that's like everything's nihilistic and keep being nihilistic. So it's great to just realize that maybe you just got to go and complete the freaking story, which is something that people don't want to accept, I guess. Like Doom Generation, like, oh, and we're just still eating Doritos and driving along. And it's like, no, man, you gotta at some point say, we're going to do something. And
well, just on a simple movie fact, I think this happens a lot. You need some sort of character development.
Yes.
Of changing, unless that's your whole point.
No,
and even with
right.
this is why I'm so invested, because he did change. I know it took a while to get there, and it wasn't monumental. He wasn't snapping his fingers and bringing back half the world Iron Man style.
Yeah.
But he brought back his life and his
he's got
energy in his life.
Yeah.
So that's pretty astounding for this main character in this movie about him.
Yeah.
Like I liked it. I also at some points was a little confused on the journey because of the monologue of each person he brought into it.
Right.
But then after I listened to what they said, I realized it was that was the point.
Yes.
That you're going to meet these character people that are going to come and go in your life. But that's, you keep going on your goal and you keep finding what's right for you. It was nice to see John Doe in a lead role too. I would like to see. I wish he got to see more. I think he was. I'm not going to throw this out there. He was Keanu Reeves before Keanu Reeves, and I'll say that I can see him being the everyday man.
Yeah,
everyday hero man. Like there's statistics saying Keanu Reeves is one of the best action stars because he looks so complacent that we all can be. We all throw ourselves in Keanu Reeves' shoes. I believe John Doe could have been that. Like I could see him taking over a lot of Mickey Rourke. Acting
definitely.
Like Harley Davidson and Marlboro Man.
Yep.
I would have liked to see a different
John Doe.
Like, dude.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It spoke to me when I was young and when I was younger and hopeless. I think I was around 23. Now that I'm 35, it speaks to me in a nostalgia way of like, oh man, like, almost like talking to myself.
Right. No, you get to, you know what you know now, and you just know that you just tell the person beforehand, just keep on the journey and you'll get there.
It's very true. I do love they go to the barbecue place and Joe brings back leftovers. Like, Sam's like not eating none of it. He's freaked out. He's sitting there eating ribs, has the biggest bag ever. Oh man. I would I guess if I was to tell anyone about this movie, I'd be like, if you watched, if you're looking for something different, this might be a good movie for you.
Yeah.
If you're just looking for a popcorn flick,
no,
this isn't it.
Yeah, no, it's a movie that's got a message, and you know what? That's a tough thing to sell. People just want a
Bravo
story.
For the message is literally the lack of message to find a message. It's like if anything, running from he was running from himself to just find out a new self.
Well,
and
the closest big budget thing you could go and say this is to would be Finding Nemo and just keep swimming.
Yeah. Dear Lord, that's the realest analogy ever. Oh man, no Albert Brooks.
Yeah.
Very little bit of him. It's just Nemo swimming.
Yep.
and you get to meet a few more colorful turtles along the way.
Right.
Like, that is very true. Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. And without, that's the perfect analogy. Perfect.
No. All right. Well,
I did Sam ever do anything more after this? The Beastie Boys. Like, I think
this is before, I think, the Beastie Boys and Sabotage, and so they did a lot of work with Spike Jonze, with music videos, and Spike Jonze become a tour de force in his own with movies like Finding John Malkovich. No, sorry, being John Malkovich. And
he did Swiss Army Man too, didn't he?
I don't know if he did Swiss Army Man. I know he did Adaptation.
I know he did Her.
Her. Yeah. So, I mean,
Where the Wild Things Are From.
Yes, that was another one. Right. So, I mean, basically, the Beastie Boys gave us Spike Jonze, so you can't really ask for much more from them. I know he was I know Ad Rock shows up in the movie While We're Young with Ben Stiller, but
well, I know this is a precursor to. It just feels like this is a good movie to jumping off of a lot of things that will be popular.
Yes.
Or in the going on in the 90s.
It's a great prototype of what was to come. And as I say, until 9/11 happened, where then we got to be patriotic and happy for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Then
that just on the comedy front, entertainment, it took a while for us to figure out how to entertain crowds again.
Right.
And it's becoming that way again too. It always circles back because with so many things becoming people's personal.
Yeah. No, we don't. Like the word. It goes back to the movie Dogma, where Chris Rock says, "No, I don't think people should have beliefs. I think they should have ideas, because ideas are so much easier to change than a belief."
Yeah.
And
it's hard. It's easy to poke fun of an idea.
Right.
It's hard for people to poke fun of beliefs.
Yep.
And no matter what you say or do, like, I could be logically right all the time.
Oh, believe me,
it doesn't matter, in this situation.
Yep.
And kind of dig. Thank you for letting me talk about this movie.
Oh no, thanks for offering so much.
I tried to bring some funny into it.
Yeah, and
different things, but this was more. This turned. I hate to say it, sentimentally, this movie's up there with Garden State with me. You're
speaking my language there. Yeah.
This is a movie that not only was entertaining to me, but spoke to me directly to where I almost I wanted to alter my life because of it and change everything.
Oh yeah.
And rewatching it would just confirm that. So I was trying to be funny, but guys, this is just one of those movies that's near and dear to my heart, like Garden State.
Yep. Oh
so, yeah. I tried to make light of it, but dude, it's just a good movie.
Oh yeah. No, that's what 90 for Chill. I try to make it all about, but then I run into Venom. There will be carnage. So you got.
Dude, if you ever want to do another one of these, weird,
definitely,
movies. I know a few other one. I'll recommend one here.
Okay.
You don't have to have me on, but Igby Goes Down. If you have never,
I've been meaning to see that one for a long time. So yeah, I'll definitely.
I'm a big Ryan Philippine fan. I don't don't know why I should say that. Out loud,
I would say. But, no, I love the movie Franklin. If you've ever seen that one.
Yeah, I have. That's awesome.
That's a solid one too. So, we'll get some time for Ryan Phillippe at some point then, and. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Again, you got your podcast, Sportz Ballz, and
it's Sportz Ballz with a Z instead of the S's.
Thank you.
Two separate words. Mm-hmm. You can find that pretty much anywhere. You type that in, you'll find it. We're on so many different networks. I'll just sound like a pretentious ass if I named them all off.
Right.
But if you're on if your social media platform you like entertaining you the most, we're on it. Just type us in, you'll find some clips.
All right, very good. Well, thank you very much, Tim, for coming on the show, and can't wait to speak to you about movies again.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, thank you.
Can I hear a wahoo?